Welcome back to the Sensory Lounge podcast. Thank you for joining us again for part 2 of Whispers of the Lake, What Lies Beneath. Before we actually started this documentary, we took a trip over to Lake Lanier, and I know you were totally uncomfortable. Tell me a little bit about that.
Uncomfortable. Like, we had my kids there and stuff, and I was just really like, I'm ready to go home because
we had just got there, and I was like, you want to get out and show the kids around. She was like, oh
no. And we eventually did, and I just was ready to get back in the car and go home.
Yeah, it depends on who you are, how you feel. It's a very eerie place to be, and so I could see why there are so many rumors and things swirling around. And I have some personal experience, some stories that I will tell after we finish giving you all the backstory. So if you missed part 1, please go back, check out part 1, and without further ado, let's get into part 2.
The racial cleansing of Oscarville. In 1912, a series of deeply unsettling events unfolded in 2 small towns, intensifying the already simmering racial tensions between Black and white communities in the area. The white population was incensed by attacks on white women, while the Black community seethed over what they saw as coerced confessions that ultimately led to multiple executions. The volatile situation ignited a violent upheaval that saw white residents forcefully expelling Black residents from Oscarville. Those who resisted were tragically met with violence, and their land and businesses were shamefully seized by white neighbors. The horrific episode predating the creation of Lake Lanier shines a harsh light on a somber chapter in Georgia's history. Back then, Forsyth County was the home of nearly 1,100 Black residents, including 58 landowners, a thriving array of businesses, a network of supportive churches, and over 20 cemeteries that bore witness to generations of life and loss. But the night riders and other white supremacists in the area didn't stop at expulsions. They vandalized Black property, confiscated livestock, and destroyed crops, leaving lasting scars on both the land and its people. This tragic period reminds us of the deep-seated racial injustices that haunted our past and continue to resonate in our collective memory. Blacks who served moved to surrounding counties in an effort to restart their lives.
As the town lies in ruins and the majority of Black residents have been forced to leave, discussions about constructing Lake Lanier began to take shape, yet pressing matter remained the cemeteries. In the early 1950s, a proposal emerged. Some Black families were given the chance to relocate the remains of their loved ones from the cemeteries. However, the process faced significant challenges. Not all families could be reached. Some had tragically lost their lives, and others lacked the means to undertake such a task. Consequently, while efforts were made to transfer certain cemeteries and graves, others were left undisturbed, bearing witness to the history that would soon be submerged beneath the waters as the lake construction plans forged ahead.
The building of the lake. In the 1950s, the region was thirsty for a reliable water supply, flood control, and hydroelectric power. Enter the Beaufort Dam and Lake Lanier project. This plan was devised to solve Atlanta's growing water needs, mitigating floods and harnessing the power of the Chattahoochee River. Construction started in 1950, and it was a monumental effort. The Beaufort Dam, a colossal structure, was built to hold back the waters of the Chattahoochee River, creating what we now know as Lake Lanier. The reservoir expands over a massive 37,000 acres, making it one of the largest lakes in Georgia. To put that into perspective, it's about 58 square miles. The reservoir can store up to a staggering 1,049,100 acre-feet. An acre-foot is a standard unit for measuring the volume of water, and it's roughly the amount of water it would take to cover an acre of land 1 foot deep. So we're talking about over 1 million of those units of water, an enormous reservoir by any measure. And it wasn't just about water storage. The Beaufort Dam also generates hydroelectric power. which has been vital for the region's energy needs. It's an engineering marvel, harnessing the river's flow to generate electricity. The creation of Lake Lanier came at a cost. It meant flooding of the land, the displacement of communities like Oscarville, and as we've discussed before, the tragic loss of cemeteries. Beaufort Dam and Lake Lanier became integral parts of Georgia's landscape, supplying water to Atlanta, supporting recreation, and offering flood control. The construction of Lake Lanier, including Beaufort Dam, took approximately 6 years to complete. Construction began in the early 1950s, with the actual impoundment of water starting in 1956.
The cost of building Lake Lanier and the Beaufort Dam was approximately $45 million at the time, equivalent to several $100 million in today's currency. Lake Lanier was named after Sidney Lanier, a renowned 19th century poet and musician from Georgia. Sidney Lanier is known for his lyrical poetry and musical composition, and his name was chosen to honor his contribution to American arts. Lake Lanier officially opened for recreation and visitors soon after the completion of the Beaufort Dam and the impoundment of water, which occurred in 1956. It quickly became a popular destination for outdoor activities such as boating, fishing, swimming, camping, picnicking, and more, which is what people use it for today. The opening of Lake Lanier provided the public with a valuable recreational resource and marked the beginning of its role as a significant recreational area in Georgia. In the earlier years, however, the lake was enjoyed by whites. It would be years before blacks would return to the area to live or for recreation. While fair housing laws in 1968 sought to create equal housing opportunities for all, it would be several years before another black resident would move to Forsyth County and the family would be met with racism and hate.
The deadliest lake. With upwards of 11 million visitors each year, the 59 square mile body of water with hundreds of miles of shoreline is the most popular lake in the Southeast. It's also the region's deadliest. Lake Lanier, despite its calm appearance, has earned the grim distinction of being one of America's deadliest lakes. Shockingly, since its creation in 1956, the waters of the Lake Lanier have claimed over 700 individuals. Since 1994, there have been over 200 deaths on the lake. Lake Lanier ranks #1 deadliest lake in Georgia. And according to a study done by Patch in 2023, it is the third deadliest in the U.S., with Lake Michigan being #1. The submerged remnants can trap swimmers, submerge them, or cause boat damage due to hidden debris. However, the deaths of Lake Lanier aren't just run-of-the-mill accidents. Alongside unfortunate drownings, there are perplexing reports of inexplicable boat fires, bizarre accidents, unexplained disappearances, and tragic incidents that defy rational explanation. Between 1994 and 2022, 216 people have died at Lake Lanier, according to the Georgia Department of Natural Resources Law Enforcement Division. Beginning in 2018, there were 8 drownings, 11 total deaths. In 2019, 8 drownings, 11 total deaths. In 2020, there were 7 drownings and 10 total deaths. In 2021, there were 4 drownings and 9 total deaths. In 2022, 6 drownings and 7 total deaths, for a total since 2018 of 33 drownings and 48 total deaths.
Restless Spirit, or Lady in the Lake. Many attribute these unsettling occurrences to the region's grim history. Legend has it that the restless spirit of those whose resting places were inundated, many of whom were Black or persecuted individuals forced out by violent mobs, may be responsible for the ominous legacy. One of the most famous legends shrouding the lake is the haunting tale of the lady in the lake. The story unfolds in 1958 when two young girls, Dyla Mae Parker Young and Susie Roberts, attended a local dance but decided to depart prematurely. On their way home, they made an impulsive stop at a gas station, leaving without settling the bill. As they drove across a bridge spanning Lake Lanier, tragedy struck. The car careened out of control, hurtling into the dark depths of the lake. A year later, a fisherman casting his line on the tranquil water stumbled upon a decomposed, unidentifiable body floating near the same bridge. At the time, the victim's identity remained a perplexing mystery. It wasn't until 1990 that the authorities unearthed a 1950s Ford sedan resting at the lake's bottom, cradling the remains of Susie Roberts within. It was then that they connected the dots, identifying the body recovered 3 decades earlier as that of Dahlia Mae Parker Young. However, the locals had already known her name, for they claimed to have encountered her spirit, perpetually clad in her blue dress, wandering near the bridge after nightfall. Her spectral form was said to have eerily handleless arms, seemingly awaiting to ensnare unsuspecting lakegoers and draw them into the watery abyss. Is the lake haunted or cursed? With a staggering annual influx of 11.8 million visitors, Lake Lanier proudly holds the title for Georgia's most frequented lake. However, beneath its popularity is a sobering statistic. It is the most perilous body of water in Georgia. Between 1999 and 2018, the Lake Lanier recorded a distressing tally of 58 boating fatalities and 145 drownings. What's even more alarming is the figure of 45 lake-related deaths occurring from 2015 to 2018. These startling statistics have been meticulously documented by the Georgia Department of Natural Resources.
Efforts to have the lake drained or closed. The former spouse of R&B artist Usher is advocating for the draining of Georgia's largest lake, where her son suffered a fatal injury 11 years ago. Tamika Foster, a fashion designer, has garnered over 2,500 signatures for her online petition, urging authorities to undertake the ambitious task of draining, cleaning, and restoring Lake Sidney Lanier. Her goal is to enhance safety measures and to eliminate hazardous debris and other obstacles. The tragic incident that fuels her mission occurred in July 2012 when her 11-year-old son, Cal Glover, the child of Bounce TV founder Ryan Glover, lost his life after being struck by a personal watercraft while floating on an inner tube on the lake. In 2020, Damali Lambert initiated a petition on change.org advocating for the closure of Lake Lanier. The petition highlights concerns regarding the lake's safety as stated by divers who have reported hazardous conditions leading to numerous fatalities. Furthermore, the petition underscores a disconcerting fact that over 27 individuals remain missing and unaccounted for after their encounters with Lake Lanier. The call to shut down the lake underscores the urgency and seriousness of these safety and recovery issues. Draining, cleaning, and restoring the lake the size of Lake Lanier is a massive, time-consuming endeavor. The duration of such a project can vary widely depending on several factors, including the scope of work, available resources, and environmental considerations. It is not uncommon for projects of this scale to span several years, if not decades.
Here we are at the conclusion, and not really a conclusion because the lake is still there, the lake is still open, the rumors
People
and
are
legends,
still visiting,
and people are still dying.
To this day. It was a few days ago that the last person died, actually.
Yeah, so it wasn't really long ago that somebody died there. So, yeah, I actually know someone who personally died on the lake. He was in a jet skiing accident with his own daughter and lost his life. So that was somebody personal to the industry with me. There's so many parts of this story that touch me personally. I don't even know where to start. But I think I am going to start on where can we go now? Because unfortunately, we can't change history. So I'm going to give my opinion on what I think should happen today. One, I think we need to find the families whose lands were taken away from them. And I think they need to be paid reparations because their land was stolen. So the first order of business is to make it right. And then I do believe that the lake should be drained and any and all body, you think so?
Yeah.
Should be recovered. I don't think, however, with such a demand and need for the water, that it would be reasonable to think that they would completely close the lake. But I would close it for a couple years if it took years or decades.
I would close parts of the lake that are recreational. Like, it doesn't need to be used for anything other than supplying water. Why are we having it
boating
open to
I agree with that.
activities?
Like, right, because that's where most of, it seems almost disrespectful. So I get what you're saying. We have it open for recreation. I could get your point. For water use is one thing, but boating and fishing is not necessarily something we need. And it's like we're there, not we, but dancing on the graves. Yeah. Anybody who's there is dancing on the grave, basically.
Yeah,
and so it's a risky endeavor, even though it's a recreation place. Whether or not it's haunted, I can't speak to that, but I could definitely.
I think so.
I believe that a curse wouldn't be far fetched.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know how the two ladies who ended up in the lake got there, but right?
Yeah.
If there's really a curse, the ladies in the lake might have been, sucked in through the curse. I'm just saying. I don't know, and I'm not making light of anything. Please don't take it that way. The facts are the facts.
Yeah.
This lake is literally...
If we're sticking to facts, there's literally people who still haven't been found. And
Yeah, we're sticking to the facts. So I'm not trying to make light of anyone passing away in the lake or the two ladies that drowned there in 1958. What I am saying, if the lake is cursed or haunted, it probably was when they went in it, is what my point was. So that was my point of saying that.
And it's not far-fetched.
It's not the most far-fetched thing in the world when you consider. The other thing is there's all kind of ruins under there. There's still buildings. There's still cars.
Churches,
cemeteries. So people are getting trapped in the debris under there. This is why the 27 bodies are missing. So how healthy can that water be as well with people swimming in it? And there's decaying bodies in the water. We know that 27 people in our time have gone in there and not come out, and we haven't found them. So at least 27 people are there. And then we know that they dumped these, billions of gallons of water on top of a cemetery where bodies were still there. So there are bodies in the water.
Yeah.
That's a problem. So haunted or not, I definitely think it should be closed.
It needs to be closed down, and it needs to be drained expeditiously.
Expeditiously, we need to stop using it. Other than for, like you said, the water work, and we need to let that go.
Definitely,
we need to find somewhere else to recreate. But
exactly
right. But we want to thank you. Please leave it in the comments what you think. If you've heard anything about Lake Lanier, if you've been there, if you vacation there and you think there's absolutely no problem, hey, let us know it in the comments. Now, we don't want any racial nonsense in the comment. Those comments will be deleted and blocked. I can promise you that. But if you have an intellectual conversation or if you have an intellectual comment that you would like to share with us, we would sure like to hear it.
We would love to hear it.
All right.
Thank you for watching.
See you next time.